up to speed, up to speed, up to speed.
Live from the apocalypse, never be afraid to say I love you. This is State of the Game. I am Dano. Um, you know, a ball of energy. And if you're ever impressed by me, just know that it's nothing compared to my mom. My mom is the 96 Bulls, and I am this year's Wizards. She's rocking. So, um, love you, mom. Now, my co-host, the funny thing about my co-host is like, so he was always the coolest cat in the office. People were just like, he's the coolest. He's the coolest. And now that he's my co-host on this thing, everybody's around the world being like, oh, Keith is the cool one. I'm like, I know. Why? I know. I'm helping you get to him, you know? So shout out to you for being here again, sir. From a location, from an outside location. Usually
Yeah.
he's here in Maine, so good time. Traveling man. Uh, we have a guest. I was trying to thin down this is someone with an incredible career, an incredible gifts that they've given uh hip hop in the community. But someone I was talking to today, incredible MC, incredible hip hop analytic mind. I told him I was talking to this guest, and he said he's the closest thing we have to KRS-One after KRS-One. That's, and I was like, wow, I've never heard that as a compliment to anyone before, but it makes sense. So Brother Ali is here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, man. I appreciate it. Is it okay to know, do I get to know who said that amazing compliment?
I can tell you, and I don't. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. Like Zilla Rocca from Philly. Both of
Okay.
you have rapped with Rock Marciano, which is nice. So can I start by telling you some stories? A little few stories.
Yeah, whatever you
Yeah.
like.
All right, man. We've met a few times, and boy, do I hope you don't remember one of them. But the first one, you were maybe one of my most embarrassing hip hop moments, right? I got to tell this story. You were doing an in-store at Bull Moose, right? Signing stuff, Bull Moose Records, Portland, Maine. Uh, and you were there, and we were so excited because we were deep in the Ali verse. Um, and I am a writer, right? Always been a writer. Short stories usually my thing, but I had just finished a novel, and I was really excited about it. And I was like, I'm printing Brother Ali this novel from my printer, and I'm going to staple it, and I'm going to give it to him at the in-store and thank him because I wouldn't have been able to finish this without him. And my friend was like, please don't do that. Please, please don't do that. That is so embarrassing. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I did. I walked up, and it wasn't even a bound, but it was just a stack of paper stapled. And I handed it to you. You were very kind. It was like, oh, that thank you. That's great. And it was like, my friend was just like, oh no. Um, but that my drive was like, I owe Ali for this. Like I wouldn't have been able to get here without him. And that's the energy that started this website and this whole thing we're on.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the embarrassing end. There's another end to that story, right? During that meeting, you told me something that I think about every day. Um, because I don't do autographs. I just kind of sat there and talked to you for a bit. And I was like, Us had just come out, 2009. And I, I, I said, have you seen the Pitchfork review? I was like, holy shit, they they misread House Keys. The review of Pitchfork had a description of House Keys that was like, this is weird. Ali kind of sounds dumb on this. It's kind of odd, right? And it was a story song about, a woman in her apartment trying to figure out what's going on next door. And at that time, I was like, they completely misunderstood your shit and then put that out to everybody. Like, How how does that work for you? How do you deal with that? And you looked me in the eye and said, it's the worst part of my job. That you put your heart into this, you put crafting something beautiful, and someone glazes over it, glances over it, and then walks away. And so that was '09. I start Free Music Empire in 2010. And within my mind, this is somebody's baby. Everything I touch is somebody's baby, and it's a serious responsibility that I have. So thank you for that. You know,
Wow. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's something that especially happened. It was much worse in like the first half of my career because there wasn't social media. I didn't have a podcast. We didn't have our own voices. Like, you know, a lot of times, and because we also went through such highs and lows of fame. So there are times when I was in Rolling Stone, and there's times when I was in Double XL and the Source and everything. But then there were times when it would just, and not to discredit anybody, but it would be, a student at the newspaper, they're like volunteering at the newspaper for their college, but that got published and put online on an official website that's Googleable. You know what I mean? And that I didn't have back then. And so, yeah, there are entire elements of my story that I didn't get to tell, but that were misconstrued and other people told. You know what I mean? And so now, for people that see me from a certain perspective, and a lot of it was really around race. Like there were writers who assume like Brother Ali's a black albino, and they just put that in their story for years. Um, and then it took so long between my first album and second album. I addressed it myself on my second album, started, all that kind of stuff, corrected it and everything. But that story ran in different versions from whoever had access to a website that I didn't from 2003 until 2007.
Mm.
and there are
And so,
still and there are still people. Sorry to cut you up. There are still
hmm,
people in and around who look at that period as you trying to like obfuscate or
mhm,
be or just be deceptive in some way about
yeah,
the nature of your race. And I'm glad you brought that up because like a lot of those stories you don't get to write those stories, right? Like they write the stories and they end up saying stuff that you didn't necessarily say, and it's
yeah.
hard were you in a position where you didn't know how to fully address it at certain points?
Yeah, and it was so many different layers, you know what I mean, and nuance. One of the I saw, some, people post these like wisdom statements and sayings and stuff.
Yep.
And one of the things I saw recently is like people see the decision you made. They don't always see all the options you had or all the
Mm.
things that you were navigating. You know what I mean? They just see what happened. And so yeah, in that time, so it's a unique and nuanced kind of thing where like my parents are white. I was, legally white, but also I'm albino. And also, I grew up in a time when there was a lot of misunderstanding about what albinism is. And so everybody from white police officers to ministers in the Nation of Islam to very like radical pro-black organizers to girlfriends to whatever, have this feeling that like albinos are black. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
And
right.
and so, also my family was deeply dysfunctional. And so I spent a lot of my time growing up in black families and households and organizing spaces and religious communities and all that stuff from the time that I was a really little kid.
Mm.
And so there's that whole thing. But then, and then my mother was adopted and she used to tell us all different kind of things. And again, this was before there was a time when you could just do a DNA test. You know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
those I really like those change so much because it's a sample of like the samples that they have now. They show you who you match where in the world. But like, you can do a test like that. And if you check back 3 years later, the results will be different. Um, so in any case, part of what was going on at that time also in the weird kind of like underground hip hop space is that there was like this movement of white artists and white listeners that the listeners especially, it wasn't so much the artists,
Yeah.
but the listeners had this sense of like, this is the pure hip hop. This white hip hop thing is the, we're the more moral, more
Right.
creative, more whatever. It happens in jazz. It happened in
Sure.
all these, every type of music. And so one of the things was like for me to make the statement, I'm white, you know, it's like also the way that that would have been understood at that time. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that like I didn't know how to even discuss. You know what I mean? And when I made my first album, I wasn't thinking about it in a marketing sense. That like, okay, if you call yourself Brother Ali, people think that Muslims are black. People think albinos are black. The word brother is associated with black culture. The way that you talk and the fact that you're albino and the fact that these people don't know. At the time that I made my first album, everybody that I thought would hear this album knew me. And
Yeah.
so like in North Minneapolis, everybody at the mosque had met my parents. And just know like, oh yeah, that's Ali. His mom's white. Crazy, huh? There's like that was like
Right. Right.
that.
Right. Right.
Um, like Juneteenth just became a thing that's known in popular culture.
Yep.
In the 90s, the Black Muslim mosque that I went to was like the only Black Muslim mosque. And so we had Juneteenth in the 90s, and everybody sent a representative to speak, to perform, to whatever. And for year after year after year after year, like I spoke and performed at Juneteenth on behalf of the Black Muslim community. It's like that's just the way that my life was, man. And I didn't like nobody teaches you how to talk about that stuff. And
Mm.
when there wasn't social media, there wasn't YouTube, we didn't all have our own podcasts. It just kind of was out there in a clumsy way for a few years. But it ends up looking like a Rachel Dolezal thing when it's not.
Yeah. It can be taken lots of ways, but I mean, I think it's been great ultimately because, and I don't know if I think about this a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of positive people, white people in the civil rights history, right? There's a lot of positive white people in hip hop history that have done things in a good way that helped people, right? Um, and we're not, appropriating parasitic in this way. I think it's good to be able to show people it's not as hard as you think to navigate this stuff, right? And I think your music has done that in a because you've always been very political and outspoken, but you've also always been romantic and funny and um, gross. Like you've always been a lot of stuff, and so you've always been well-rounded during that journey. Um, and it was so that kind of prevented you from being dumped in that fancy white MC bucket, of the old times.
Yeah, I mean, the place that where I'm at with it is like I know that it racially our country, our society is like it's a big mess, and nobody has like no one's had the answer, and like you know um yeah, so
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that like just like everything else, I try to be sincere and figure out what that means, and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff, and but yeah, to your initial point, that's why it was so difficult, especially early on, that other people could write things about us, and we pour all of our lives into writing this music, and then it comes across a writer's desk, and maybe they're incredible. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Like one day, Sasha Jenkins is writing about you, and like he's gonna get it all. You know what I mean? Or maybe Saul Williams wrote the liner notes for Uncle Sam Goddamn, my song Uncle Sam Goddamn.
Woo,
Saul Williams is gonna get it.
right.
on every- you know, but then Other days, it's just some dude who's new to hip hop,
Right. Right.
writing for a skater magazine that just misses the whole thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there was a lot of that. Definitely very influential on where I started with this stuff. But um, yeah, it was interesting to get to the okay, get to another story, but this relates to Ant, right? Um, there was a period of time where I was angry on your behalf, like just publicly, these hip hop conversations. And I was pointing my finger at people because I think you had done a great song with Jake One on his Jake One release. Was it White Van Music? On Rhymesayers, and it was just getting a lot of burn, and people were like, "We need a Jake One album with Ali. He needs to do Jake One albums." And I was like, "How dare you interrupt the relationship with Ant and Ali? Like, you just want you just want to send Guru to the Beat Miners? Like, no, nothing wrong with the Beat Miners, but we're gonna stick with Guru and Premier." And like that was how I felt about Ant and you. I didn't want that interrupted because I remember you talking about it and saying, I go over his house, we hang out, and it's very organic. We like that kind of stuff. It's hard to replicate. I was worried about losing any time with it. Was that a real thing or was that in my head? In terms of that concern.
Well, I mean, I think I always had a feeling that yeah, it's both like what I do with Ant is very special, and it's the reason that people know us. It's the reason that anybody knows, and like really, the reason I have a career is because of the people that respond to what me and Ant have done. And I can't do that stuff with anybody else. And it is the most special relationship I have, both on a friendship level and also on a music level. It's also true that Ant has like certain sonics to his music that don't appeal to like a traditional hip hop audience. And so and I think he shares it. Like
Right.
we've always had a feeling that if I had been in an alternate universe, I could have had a chance to be in the conversation with any of the other MCs that are in that like traditional hip hop conversation. Like there's nothing that they can do that I can't hang with them on.
Sure.
And I think that song was one of the times that like just me being on the record with Freeway, having those particular sonics. Rick Cordero came and shot a video. He shot the video he shot some of it in Seattle, some of it in Philly, some of it in Minneapolis. And like, yeah, that was the one that got me noticed by, a more traditional hip hop kind of. So it's both, like I make very special stuff with Ant, but it's also somehow the sonics of it or something about it doesn't play in the traditional hip hop world.
And yeah, and by the way, I went back after all this researching for this interview. I went back to the Bite Marked Heart. And I was like, "This is a great album. I should just calm down. I should have calmed down." Like, it's Jake One's an incredible talent, and I think.
So that one is half Jake and half Ant.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that was like in those were songs that just so the Jake One album is Morning in America.
okay. That was okay. I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. And yeah, no, it's really and I think more people. Jake One is one of those people who is. I think more people know who he is than know that they know who he is. Like, because he's big, his hands are everywhere. Um, you could be listening to Tuxedo or 50 Cent and be listening to Jake One. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or De La Soul
right.
or yeah, it goes really far and wide and different generations,
Mm,
like the newest rappers and a bunch of J. Cole stuff, a bunch of, you know, yeah, it's dope, man. Yeah, Jake is a really special guy.
yeah.
And Jake is one of those people that like because his sonics are just a little different, he was able to speak to the traditional hip hop world and for whatever, like him and Evidence both speak to that world, whereas Ant doesn't.
Mm,
But Ant's got his own world, you know.
yeah, it's different. And I are we in the write up trying to break down the different periods of your career? I stumbled upon this metaphor at the end. I don't. It was like "Satisfied Soul," the newest release on Mellow Music that you have with Ant. It feels like uh, an apartment complex where all the Brother Alis get to live.
Hmm.
Uh, and is that yeah? It's 57 minutes long. It's almost
Hmm.
an hour. Um, and my rule for hour albums, I've told this to Kay, you can go for an hour, but you better have something to say, right?
Mhm.
I'm not just listening to you floss for an hour. Like I don't need to hear about your chains for an hour. Um, but this does. It feels like it has all the stages within it uh, of growth and development. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think like the angry battle rapper guy isn't like he's just not really around anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, Although I mean I'm still not playing with the mic, you know, but just it's less about killing MCs, you know what I mean? MCs are just not my focus at all. Um, but yeah, I mean I could see that. I could see the idea that they're all there. I mean, definitely when I look at to go backwards, Shadows on the Sun,
Yeah.
like all the stuff that I ended up doing is all really there on that record. Like there's a political,
Yeah,
spiritual,
Mhm.
storytelling, very like personal, very vulnerable, um, you know, talking about social stuff, the neighborhood, like it's all on that one to me.
that's fair. That's a good point. Yeah, it's and I remember just like I don't know. So I come back from the army in like '02, right? And I I was behind on what was going on, right? I missed this kind of independent revolution uh being overseas. And I came back and I was just stocked up on like Scribble Jam DVDs. Uh and I remember you yelling at someone that you had to win this battle because you had to get it home, and I was like, oh shit. So and stocked up on the stuff, and I remember hearing the title track Shadows in the Sun and being like, I just didn't know you could do it like this. Like this is so, you know, it's so different. Um the other experience like that was probably Firstborn with Idea. Um but yeah, it was that was a monumental album for all of us.
It was a great time. Like we just didn't expect to ever be heard. There was no expectations. Um, we literally were just making music that, we were only in our city. Like there was a small group of people in our city that listened to our music. And it was starting to expand, but for the most part, it was a small group of people. And so we just were having fun making
Mhm.
music there was nothing else, and then you know, once any level of success comes in, it does change it. You hope that it wouldn't, but for almost everybody, it does. You have to be completely aloof for it to
Right.
not change. So there are some super artists like Doom that like none of that is changing what Doom is doing. But
Right.
How
Steve,
did it change you?
I mean, I just saw the responsibility of having a platform.
Mhm.
Like there's all these people listening to me. And so part of what happened, and I mentioned like the whole race conversation is like when my album came out, I was on tour with Atmosphere and the Micronauts. And I self-divined from the Micronauts. There was a period where like we had a very specific relationship where he was like a mentor to me. And during that period, he actually came and got me. He knocked on my hotel and showed me an article and he was like, read the first paragraph of this. And it was like, Brother Ali is a black albino from Minneapolis and da da da. And I was like, yeah, people are starting to write this. And he was like, you need to figure out how to talk about this and da da da. And one of the things he told me is like, you've been raised, you know, you've been raised in Black homes and communities and stuff, and you've learned all these things, and in a lot of ways, this is your cultural like home.
Mhm.
Now you have all these white people listening to you because they identify with you. And even though that wasn't your experience growing up, these people are literally looking up to you. Like you're on a stage, they say everything you tell them. Like they do love you, they are relating to you. And so this is your chance to impart some of that or to do, and so it became that, that was the first one. And then, just the responsibility of having a platform does change the music. And I think it got less, there was less humor. Like Shadows on the Sun, there was a lot of humor, a lot of really raw, just, but then you start thinking about like, could I hurt somebody, with, if I say things in a certain way, could I harm somebody?
Right, right,
You
right.
start realizing like there people are listening to this. The responsibility of it changes it, or you don't care about the responsibility of it, and then you're kind of whack in that way to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been to shows where you were reining in the crowd during the show, where you were like calling people out, making sure people were being respectful to one another during the show, you know, and keeping things on, online. Um, so I felt that, I think one of the things I think is a staple of your career, and I'd be interested to hear if you agree, is like you have giant sized moods that really change the air around you. Um, like if if you get on stage and you're worried about the world, the whole venue is now like breathing that air.
Yeah.
And I've seen you so excited to debut a song that you love
Mm,
that it changed everything for everybody.
mm.
Um, yeah.
I appreciate that. I have a spiritual guide who's, like a spiritual mentor, like a guru.
Yeah.
And there's actually it's two of them. It's like one of them is from America, and then his teacher is also kind of like the master teacher from Gambia, West Africa. But the American one said something really similar. Like he's like, if you feel something, you don't have to say or do anything about it. Everybody in the room knows it. So he was telling me, like, man, your heart has to be right because if you've got anything, he's like, it's always projecting. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, yeah. So, I mean, I've definitely, like you said, like there's been times where things have been really heavy. And there are times, and I remember, Tyler, the creator, actually was like, he was like, yeah, you're done. Like when I started doing being like that,
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
this is over. I just was like, man. I mean, and he's very harsh with how he says things, and like
Sure.
his opinions are
Sure.
really strong. I mean, he's always been like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny because the thing he was criticizing me for, he's like that too. It's
Oh,
just not
totally.
politics. It's art. He'd
Yeah.
be like, you know what I mean? He was wearing the wrong hat. Well, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
He'll be like so furious that somebody had this stupid hat on,
Yeah.
or like, you know what I mean? He totally does it too. We all do. Like anybody that says like, I'm gonna make art and somebody needs to be sitting down listening to me. Like we've all got something of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, yeah. And I remember, yeah, there's, when you go long enough, when you have a long enough career, there's going to be points where parts of your audience are like, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
And, I was trying to do the write up for Morning in America and be as nice to it as I can, but I don't listen to that album because I was doing workouts for people in who are having problems with their housing at that time, and it was just too. I was too close to that, you know.
Yeah.
It was too close. I was like, I don't need to go to work after work,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, but when I remember, I think Secrets and Escapes came, and I was
Okay.
like, oh shit, okay, all right, I like this,
Yeah.
and so,
That's
yeah,
a rap record.
right. My thought process, Ali, is always if someone has dropped a classic record, that's in them somewhere,
Hmm.
right? So don't be surprised when LL Cool J comes with the Force and it's great because that's in him, right? Like he could, he gave you the last one. So I never fully check out as someone that's on that level, you know. Um, so I'm back with you, but uh, let's talk about Love and Service, man. I have such a strange relationship with that album.
So do
But
I. It's such a strange, it was so weird. That was such a weird period.
it's a weird. So when it came out, I was like, I like that Brother Ali is searching for a better place, maybe within him and within society. But I miss when he roared at me. This is too peaceful now, you know. Uh, that was my initial reaction, right? But over the course of that year, three songs on that album never left me. Never left me. Manic, Gauntlet, and Inside. And I put them on every playlist. And those three songs led me back to the album. And now I love the album. But yeah, I remember recording a voice note for Crate 808 because he was asking me what my favorite songs of the year was. And I said Gauntlet, that you and Rock. And it was just beautiful. Like that your blues mentality, right? Uh, Rock just gets that. He just understands it immediately. Um, yeah, special songs. But tell me about that project and how it lives in your mind.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I mean, so basically, in 2020, I left Minneapolis, left Rhymesayers, which is like, that's, those were the two of the major things in my identity. I mean, another
Mhm.
one was, being a Muslim. And so moving to Turkey was definitely like leaning into that. But I left the community organizing, left the community, left the label, all that stuff. And really was just like, man, I have to like figure out who I am outside of these things that I've always been associated with and even associated myself with. And so I started making that project over these like lo-fi beats. Um, like I had just moved into an office in Istanbul and I felt like I was an immigrant. I don't speak the language. It's like I don't want to get kicked out of this place. Like I really like had my head down on some like immigrant, just don't deport me. Just let me
Right.
live here. You know what I mean? Don't kick me out of this building. Don't, And so it had like a quiet lo-fi kind of feeling, but man, the things that I was able to get out in those songs were deeply healing for me.
Yeah.
And like, so to me, it's one of the most important things I've ever done. I'm extremely proud of it. I love the things I was able to say. There's a few songs on there that I couldn't be done with my career until I made those songs. The title track Love and Service is about cancel culture.
Right,
And like
right.
me and my friends went through that and it was really heartbreaking. And it was not just, and especially for me to be involved or to not be excluded from it, like that was really whack. That was a really heartbreaking thing to go through.
Mhm.
And the song that I wrote about it, I'm like, man, I don't care if nobody ever understands what that song means. Like to me, like I gave myself a gift in writing that song. And it really, really matters to me. And then there's a song in there called Cadillac, which is a story about me and my first father-in-law. And just all that talks a lot of like really as a snapshot of all these racial nuances and things like that. I'd always wanted to do that one. And I made these songs without writing them, without like sitting down and typing them out, like or writing them out. Like I wrote in my head 4 bars at a time. Um, Yeah, and I love every song on that project. I I just feel so good about it. So then also I made it with Unjust, who's a anti-Zionist Jewish homie.
Yep, yep.
And so we made the whole album and we knew that he's Jewish and I'm Muslim. It just was no big deal. I got a bunch of Jewish friends. He
Sure.
has a bunch of Muslim friends.
Yep.
It was not weird to us. We didn't care really. It
Mhm.
wasn't part of the conversation. Um, but then October 7th happened. And so we made a song called The Collapse. It was the last song that we made. And then he also animated and illustrated the videos for the album. And we had so I made the two albums at the same time. Like we
Mhm.
had Shadows on the Sun and Satisfied Soul. I met with a major distributor who was supposed to distribute both albums. Um, they were excited about them. The whole thing was great. Well, once we started rolling out Love and Service, October 7th happened, and I discovered that the guy that runs that label slash distributor is a hardcore Zionist.
Oh
Like,
no.
I mean, hardcore.
Oh
And I
no.
realized that, like, yeah, they also control festivals and they
Oof.
control a huge part of the music industry. And nobody on their festivals says a word about Palestine. Even artists that I know are pro-Palestinian.
Right, right.
Uh, like they're very clearly, you know, that's not going to be, and they ghosted us, man. Like we put a lot of money into that project because we thought we had a big distribution partner that was going to help with marketing and all kind of stuff. And man, it's almost like that album didn't happen. I
Oh,
was deeply shadow banned on social media. I mean, literally, my posts were being seen by almost nobody. We didn't get a single write-up. We hired a very expensive publicity person out of our own pocket. Me and BK1 have Travelers Media we just released it on our own because we were already in the process. So it's like, I guess we're just putting this out ourselves. But we had already paid thousands of dollars for publicity and for manufacturing the vinyl. It's a deluxe vinyl package, you know, and just we had almost no way to get the word out. Um, and it's almost like it didn't even like we paid tens of thousands of dollars for the publicity person, the same person that got me Rolling Stone and Double XL
right,
and everything
right.
else. He got us zero, not one article, not one, nothing. The only platforms that talked about it at all were Chuck D on his radio station,
Sure.
Amy Goodman on Democracy Now, and Bobito Garcia had me on Instagram Live. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It was such a revelation, to put that much time, energy, and money into a project that just people didn't even know it happened. And yeah, I mean, Rock Marcy was on it. Uh, Aesop Rock, Casual,
Right, right.
Quelle Chris. Um,
Man.
it just got it just almost like it didn't even happen. So it really powerful in a lot of ways. It's like don't ever take anything for granted.
Right.
Um, the music industry can shut you down. Like that's the issue you're not allowed to talk about. I also didn't get booked for a paid gig for a full year, which
Yeah.
has never happened in my career.
That's
Like,
incredible.
I mean, to this day, I can easily do 100 shows in the US during the year, just in the US alone.
Sure.
Uh, you know, I couldn't get a single thing for a year. So it's also, I learned the whole music industry can turn its back on me for a year, and we survived. My
Right.
chef, the Gambia said, "Don't worry, your wife and kids are never even going to know that you're having a problem. Allah will provide for your family." And it's true. I don't know how it happened, but we were fine. And like what I learned from that is like I'm more fearless now than ever. I know how real it is that they can turn the faucet off on you. And I also know that I'll survive. And I still got to say everything I wanted to say.
Yep.
The other thing I learned is that, like you said, like success changes your music, having an audience
Mhm.
changes your music. And after a while, you start wondering, like, do I really still do this for me? And from that album, I learned, yes,
Right.
like outwardly, it was a complete failure. We still haven't made our money back. Outwardly, it was a failure, but I'm happy. I feel like so proud of that. It's like those were gifts that no successful album could have given me.
Right.
Success, there's gifts that come with success, and there's gifts that come with outward failure.
Mm,
And those gifts are, you don't know if you're generous until you're broke. You don't know if you're brave until you're genuinely fearful and you have got real reason to fear.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
You don't know how loyal you are until there's nothing in it for you sticking with your people. Um, you don't know how truthful you are until it's way easier to lie.
Right.
You don't know how faithful you are to your wife until there's, until things are bad between you and your wife and somebody else opens a door for you.
mm,
And it's just like, no, I'm not that person. It's like we have to have these horrible moments that we would have never chosen to be given the gift of ourself. Like I know myself in ways that I couldn't have known myself if everything I ever did was successful.
That's a great
mm,
point. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. With when you're doing when you're going to be active and you're going to be political and you're going to speak truth to power, um, you have to accept that you're going to take hits and you have to accept that like it's worth it for me to take this hit. Like I'm here to
And
take this.
in art too.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
like it's not only for political, it's like doing switching up your art. So like, I had always made Rhymesayers records except for the Evidence record.
Yeah.
But like, Rhymesayers is like what Motown was to black music in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
Where they called them race records. Like if a black person made music, it was like they're making it for other black people. And then Motown came along and said, if we polish this up, we can get it mainstream, aka if we polish this up enough,
Yep.
white people will listen to it.
Right.
And that's kind of what Rhymesayers did for underground rap. It's a very well presented, polished up version of underground rap. And so I'd always done that, and this was not that. Like every bit the attention to detail was there, but it was intentionally like, do not put reverb on the snares and the, don't make the transients,
Yeah.
don't make it snap in your speakers like it's supposed to. We're going for lo-fi, we're going for, you know. So, Atmosphere has changed their sound several
Sure.
times,
Sure.
and the fans are mad at it every time, you know. But it's like, no, so it's not the same as saying something political, but it's also not different
Mm,
to just do something different that like I don't know if the people that pay my bills are gonna like this.
right.
mm,
Right. It's yeah, it's important to have that, crossroads and to say I stand for this regardless, or you don't and you're willing to switch up and now you know that about yourself. But the growth is critical. I yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rhyme Sayers and the Motown polish because I always tell Kay that rhyme sayers and hieroglyphics created what I thought of as like a rap middle class. It used to be pop or underground. And then I felt like now there's a middle tier of people who are in the middle. Um, do you,
Yeah.
would you
I
agree
would
with
say
that
Stones
assessment?
Throw. Yeah, I would say Stones Throw is in there too.
Ooh,
Duck Down is in there too.
yep, yep,
Um, I think Mellow is has something kind of similar to that. Yeah, it's like a working class or middle class kind of. I would say working class, but yeah, very similar idea.
yeah. And it was working class in terms of the rhyme sayers touring reputation was
Yeah.
intense, right? And I remember it being intense because me and Kay live in Maine, right? And I remember you came to Maine multiple times a year, and I was like, no one does that, man. No one does
Yeah.
that. Like, you have been around the world if you're coming back here.
Mhm.
Um, and so it was. I imagine it must be like comedians who've been on SNL for a few seasons, and then they leave, and nothing ever scares them again because nothing's ever that arduous. Is I mean is yeah, I imagine that's the case. Does that make sense?
To leave Rhymesayers?
That when you that kind of rigorous touring
Oh,
schedule,
the touring. Yeah.
that like you're kind of a touring Jedi at this point. Um,
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I can manage myself and others on tour. I
mm,
could be a booking agent if I wanted to be. I definitely the only things that tour managers do that I can't do is drive a vehicle because I'm legally blind.
right.
And I can't do email chains because for the same reason. But everything else, I mean, yeah, I just did a run in Europe completely by myself
Mm,
because I've got my computer and everything that I play live are files that I made. They're sessions that I made. So even if I'm doing the music that I made with Ant, that stretches back from 2002 to, this year. Um, I get all of the stems and I, put subs and 808s and stuff where they weren't there for live. I rearrange everything, I remix everything, I replace the sample with the CD quality version. All of this stuff.
mm,
So I mean, I can tour manage myself, I can be there myself, I can get on the mic and handle that. I can DJ for myself, and I mean,
yeah.
there's no situation that I can't handle.
I want to ask, do you enjoy touring?
I can, like, it can be really enjoyable.
Hmm.
It really just depends on who I'm working with. Like if I have a tour manager and crew that I'm vibing well with, I love it. If I don't, then it can be really challenging.
Hmm.
I re-
But I still love being on stage and
oh
I
yeah.
still love the connection with the person I'm performing with, and I still love the connection with the audience.
Hmm.
So that nothing can mess up.
When you asked that question, I remember I was like, "Ooh, this is a heavy question for Ali," because I think Ali was a father before even getting big, right? Like you were already a parent, so a lot of your discography is about the cats in the cradle. Like I'm not with my kids, and as someone who I'm a father, my son is 11. I'm with him every day. I work from home. Um, I understand that because losing that would be horrible, you know? Um, and yeah, I feel like all throughout your career, you've been wrestling with, I love this stage. I love being great at this, but I, I always feel like I should be over there with them.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's the biggest sacrifice for what I've done. And it's so many things in my life. My general kind of state is that I feel clear about what's right and wrong,
Mm,
and I'm happy to do what's right. I'm I might be, you know, wrong about that, but like I have a sense within myself of what I think is right and what I think is wrong. And I'm happy to make any sacrifices for what's right. The one thing where I just don't have a clear answer is being away from my family to do what I do.
mm,
The
mm.
fact that
Yeah.
my family sacrifices for me to do what I do. But it also is very obvious that this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. Like
Right.
it's very clear that the creator made me this way. Like this is who I am. And for me to not do it would also be wrong, you know. Um, So yeah, I mean, and I have two older kids that I was like on tour their whole life. And then I have two little ones that came along right before the pandemic, and I'm usually with them. But I just went through some more like really rigorous touring that I hadn't done in since the pandemic. And we just met with my kids' guidance counselors at their school today, and they both were like, that tour you just did, I've been gone basically since November.
Mm,
And they just were like, that tour you did affected your daughters. Like they're they're having anxiety. They're, you know what I mean?
mm,
Because they're used to me being there.
mm.
And so it's the one thing that I can't have a black or white feeling about it. It's
Yeah,
just constantly a struggle, you know.
yeah, I hear you. Um, yeah, there's no easy answer there, and it's just something that's been throughout your whole career, and has been important. So I just wanted to make sure that was logged. Kay, going from love and service to satisfied soul, how did you feel?
I mean, the two projects that I really I listened to the Shadows on the Sun,
Oh yeah,
and then I
great.
went to Satisfied Soul.
That's a hell of a comparison. Those are two very
Yeah,
different periods. How did you feel about satisfied soul?
yeah. I mean, what I enjoyed about it because I started with Shadows on the Sun,
Right.
and and like you said, they both of the albums covered like a lot of topics for sure.
Sure.
But what I liked about Satisfied Soul was, I mean, it came out 22 years later. You could see that he had really, or Brother Ali had, I guess, I don't know how, I'll just say it like I feel it, like he kind of reined in the ego. So it's the same person, but
Okay.
like the ego has kind of been reined in. So like it's just interesting how he's approached life, like the same person
Yeah.
as Shadows of the Sun. He's approaching life the same way, but without the ego, which I found like really like is really touching in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And it's a very spiritual journey. It's always a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Um,
So I kind of wanted to ask, yeah. So I wanted to ask Brother Lee, like, what has what has your relationship been with your ego?
Man,
mm,
that's a really beautiful, I take that as a huge compliment, like
Yeah.
the biggest compliment, because I mean, the spiritual side of Islam that sometimes people call Sufism. So, Islam is like kind of has these three major buckets for this huge like tradition, because it's not just a philosophy and it's not just a spiritual thing. It's also a practice, you know what I
Mm,
mean? But these are the three areas, like the theology or like what we believe is one bucket. What the practice of Islam, the outward practice is another one, and then the spirituality is another one. But they all go together. And the spirituality sometimes, so like the outward practice is called the Sharia.
mhm.
They talk about Sharia law. Like it's not a law, it's a code of conduct that just puts everything a person can do in one of five moral categories. Um, and then the spiritual side of Islam is called Sufism, but um, the number one objective is to discipline the ego so that it's not in the driver's seat. So that because the internal part of the human being is a soul, a heart, an intellect, and an ego, or a soul, heart, um, mind, ego. And the ego is the enemy. Like the ego is trying to destroy everything. It's the thing that's obsessed with self, with individuality, with identity, with itself. And it demands what it wants, whether it's good for us or not. So it's the ego that makes us eat too much food and spend too much money. And, it's the ego that maybe makes people try to have sex with somebody that doesn't want to have sex with them. It's
right.
just demands. It's like if I want something, I demand to have it. And so yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of the spiritual path is to, like you said, rein in the ego. It's like, man, that's the goal. Like that's it.
the wild part about winning, if you start winning battles with your ego enough, you can see everything around you change. The people around you are happier, right? Like you're happier. Like you can see things just getting better, markedly so. It's like, oh, that was like a weight, it's like a heavy backpack that I was carrying that now I don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, and it purifies everything. Like the ego is poisoning everything. And so reining in the ego purifies everything, including our truth telling. So, those years that I was really focused on political stuff, it's like there's a self-righteousness there, or there's like a heaviness to that. Like you said, like when you're in the room, like if I was upset about the world, it's like the whole room could feel really heavy.
Hmm.
And there's that's because it's being tainted by, poisoned by the ego, and this like huge sense of this grandiose self importance. You know what I mean? That
Hmm.
like I'm gonna be the prophet that's gonna come and deliver the message that's gonna change and it's that way in art too. It's not only about political stuff or religious stuff, it's that way in every single thing. So there are
Right.
people that, have this sense of like, I'm an important artist, you know, and it can be that way about anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've I've found that, if the ego is being allowed to do its own thing, it'll destroy a religious practice, a spiritual practice. It'll destroy a political movement. It taints anything good, bad, and ugly that we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to nerd out about your craft a little bit, if that's okay.
I
Um,
love it.
as a writer studying your writing, I I can't get enough of the things. One of my favorite things about Satisfied Soul is so the beginning is just it is what I wanted, right? It is that big roaring Ali, you know, explaining the importance of the drums, all that, 1 through 6 probably, or 5, yeah, and then Oceans of Rage, Under the Stars.
Mhm.
That's a whole different section of the album to me. That's like we've gone into section 2, and Under the Stars is such a beautiful story song.
Mhm.
Um, it's so lightly textured and uh, has a perfect opening line, right? Like opening lines are important to me, uh, and closing lines are important to me, right? And so, and you understand that world very well. Like the opening of like Under the Stars is like, why did you have to hit me in the face? And we're in. Uh, and you've ended songs before with, and I have a new baby. Bye. Like you understand how to close and how to open and how to organize things in a way that's really meaningful. Pacing, I guess, would be in your writing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting. I appreciate that a lot because, yeah, it really matters a lot to me. And when I made Secrets and Escapes with Evidence, um, that was Evidence really trying to get me completely out of my comfort zone. And so, you know, I sat there. I did not sit down and write those songs. Like he made the beat with me sitting there, and he let me like chime in on the beat, like just give it,
Yeah.
opinions about I like it, I like that one better than that one or whatever. So he made the beat with me sitting there, and then I'd start to think about what to say. But the main thing was that I would just think of 2 or 4 bars and record them, think of 2 more and record them, think of 2, 4 more and record those. And then most of the time, he would just walk over to the computer and save the session and turn it off before I was done. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I was going to wrap it up and give this conclusion. And he's just like, no, this isn't a book report. Like you rap and you rap and then you just stop rapping. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear it. And in conclusion, you
Right.
know what I mean? He's like,
Yeah.
I don't want that. And then even the album itself, I was like, I want to make a final song for the album. And he immediately, like, I couldn't even get a word in about what that song would be or whatever. He was just like, hell no. Like, he was just cussing me out. You know what I mean? You're gonna
Awesome.
make some stupid tear jerker trying to pull together. He's like, you're gonna ruin it. You're gonna ruin the album. Trying to make a thing about the statement of what the album was about and summary and all this. He's
That's
like, no,
awesome.
shut up.
Yeah. That's incredible. It's great to have people that know the mission,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and keep you on mission. The other
yeah.
thing is if somebody was saying Brother Ali is going to write a book, right? I would say, is it about rap hooks? I hope it's about rap hooks. Because Brother Ali should write a book about rap hooks. I think there's a lot of presumptions about rap hooks that your music busts apart.
Hmm.
There's a thought that the hook needs to be uh, it needs to be simple. It needs to be uh, a summation of the point, right? Um, it can't wander. It can't be too literary. You've done all those things in your hooks, and so. And by the way, the song I was talking about when I was saying like the one that you were most happy to do, and maybe the two most emotional moments I've seen on live, right? Was one was you doing Good Lord, and the other was Fiona Apple doing I Know, right? Um, so I think when you did Good Lord, it was so happy, it made you so happy, and it made everybody so happy, and the hook was so infectious, but the hook wanders, right? I mean, it's Muhammad Ali's in the hook, you know. So it's, but at the same point, inside, which I listened to over and over again, is like deeply poetic and gripping and sorrowful. And like, tell me about hooks and what you think people's misconceptions are about hooks. Sometimes people don't write hooks anymore. They're just kind of rapping until they're done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Underground rap, there's no more hooks.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a time of I mean, thank you for what you said, for all the stuff you're saying.
Mhm.
Um, like, yeah, I come from a time when hooks were always really important. Beginnings and endings of lines sometimes were the hook, like with Chuck D, KRS, Rakim. Those are like the three main people that I like based my early like songwriting on was those three guys. And Chuck D was really big on the first line, like the first word, bam,
Yep. Yep.
and you say God, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Here
Yep.
it is. Or I got so much trouble on my mind. Like just the beginning line was so amazing.
Right.
Um, Rakim was really big on the end of the rhyme. So Rakim would write his last line first. It ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. Even the ghetto, like that's the end of the. And then KRS was just and just so literary and so amazing with the way that he organized stuff. So yeah, those three guys for verses, and then for hooks, I have to say like a lot of that stuff I learned from Slug and Musab with that,
Mhm.
like with being on Rhyme Sayers and being around them
Yep.
because they were the ones that really told me like we're songwriters. Like in our 16s, we're rappers. But like, yes, but a lot of people can rap. We're songwriters. We're songwriters you know, um, like everybody from Howlin' Wolf to Burt Bacharach to
Right.
Dionne Warwick to, like Bob Dylan, we're
Yep.
songwriters. And so I started really kind of rethinking things in that way. That's like, what does Johnny Cash do? What is, and they're the ones that made me think like that. I never thought like that until I met them. And
Mm.
it's one of the things that I'm so grateful to them for that.
Yeah. To break you out of, because I'm sure you were coming from like a battle background, and you wanted to, uh, to be king of the hill, right? Like that's
Yeah, and it's like just have Premiere scratch a bunch of stuff and call it a chorus.
right, right, right. And but that's yeah, to be able. And was there like a period or a song where you were like, damn, my blues voice is working, and it's something that other people can't. Other people don't have this muscle.
Well, yeah, once I started doing Shadows in the Sun with Ant,
Yep.
it was that, you know. So I made a demo tape called Rites of Passage. It's not really officially available anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
but I did play around on that. I mean, I just have to say that, like, man, I would say coming in contact with Slug and Musab early
Yeah.
was what did it for me. You know, Slug, you know, Atmosphere is just one of the most important hip hop groups of all time to me. And again, they're not recognized as that.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, they've just made more music and a broader variety of amazing music that doesn't sound like anything else than anyone. I mean, in that sense, their cultural impact isn't the same as De La Soul and Public Enemy and Tribe Called Quest and all that kind of stuff. But just in terms of like the sheer amount of music they've made,
Right.
how many different approaches they've taken to everything. And I mean, so just hearing Slug early on sing choruses before 50 Cent, like I think 50 Cent might be the greatest like hip hop chorus guy ever. Um, but like before 50, Slug was doing that, and like and he was never been a great singer, but he had an idea for a chorus that was him singing it, and it was emotional, and sometimes it would sound super white, or you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, man. I really got to give the credit to Musab. I think Musab was the one that first gave us the idea, and then Slug took it and really ran with it.
Yeah.
Um, and I was able to stay in my lane. Like I didn't grow up on rock music. I grew up on blues,
Yeah.
jazz,
Yeah.
pop, R&B. I can't sing R&B really. Like my voice won't do that. But I could kind of pull off the blues thing.
Mhm.
Uh, there's like I would do a reggae kind of influence thing, but I never tried to do reggae really.
Right.
But those two influences are like I can kind of I can kind of pass those off.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Kay, who beat 50 Cent in our best hooks tournament?
Maybe was it Missy?
I think it might have been Missy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, the great episode, guys. But yes, so the in terms of Slug, from afar, what always struck me was because at my point, I was writing 5 pages of short story work a week at least, right? Just every week, just hammering away at it, and I couldn't stop, you know. And Slug felt like he was doing that. Like it was very, I felt very like a kinship. Like they were like, why does he release so much? He can't stop. That's who he is. Like, and there were some lines I remember where people would be like, "Oh, why did he say that? That was so corny." I'm like, "Dog, Slug takes 1,000 shots. Like he's not gonna stop. And but he's gonna get to a place beyond where you are because he's just fearless, absolutely fearless."
Yeah, and I mean, much like yeah, when you say it takes a lot of, and I mean, much like Kobe or I think the period from like maybe 2000 until I would say paint that ish gold.
Right.
So like maybe 98 to 2008.
Yep.
He put out such an amazing amount of music during that time, and I think it's all dope.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much, And then they started experimenting in ways that didn't speak to me as much.
Mhm.
And there was a period where, like, the experimenting that he started doing writing wise felt less literal.
Mm,
And so there's times where I'm like, I don't really know what's meant by these lyrics.
mm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? So but there still is stuff on every single record that they do has something where I'm like, yo, my man is still that dude.
Right, 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 right,
Like
right,
he's choosing to be less topical and literal and like he chose that. And
right.
now I know that there's a specific thing that caused him to do that, that I
Mhm.
don't know if I mean, he spoke about it on my podcast a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, and I might not be 100% accurate with this, but um, he made the song Little Man where he talked about his son, his dad, and himself.
Right.
And he said things about his dad in that song that really hurt his dad, but his dad never told him. He only heard about it after his dad died.
Mm.
And
Damn.
so he realized that, like, even him telling his truth about his relationship with his dad, it's not like he lied. It's not a diss song. It's not a
Right.
Eminem song about killing him and putting him in a trunk or something.
Right, right, right.
It's just like when I was a kid, this is what it felt like for me. Um, but I think he felt like, man, you can really hurt somebody with what you say, even if you're just telling your truth.
Mhm.
So I think after that, it never was as literal. And
Mm.
so for me, it's, you know what I mean? It's not quite as, but I mean, yeah, still there's still something where he can't avoid it. Like there's something literal on each album. There's a song
Yeah.
called Virgo that's just from one of the later albums that's just gorgeous, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
The relentlessness is key. Yeah. But this album has Satisfied Soul has so many phases and stages. Um, you know, and Kay, did you have any runs on it that you really enjoyed? Runs of songs?
So I think my favorite song was Drum, but I really liked
Mm.
personally, funny I said personally, I liked From Under the Stars, Personal, Two Dudes, and then my second favorite song was Better But Us.
Better But Us is crazy.
Yeah, so that I guess
Mm.
from 7 to 10 or 7 to 11 was the part of the album that I really connected with.
Yeah.
that's the yeah. So I don't know if I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Dead End Hip Hop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
So like in their review of the album, I think that was their least favorite part.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I love that. There's the different phases are great. I kind of love 14 through 17, Head, Heart, Hands,
Yeah,
Mysterious Things,
very strong ending.
very strong ending. Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, and I love the beginning. The beginning is so energizing and awesome.
Hmm.
The first three songs are, oh, that's electric. But I'm gonna go. Um, I'm gonna go 6, 7, 8. I'm gonna go the Cast Aside, Ocean of Rage, Under the Stars. It's so pretty. Oh, Under the Stars is so pretty. Um, and yeah, all the ranges of volume,
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to be very pulled together and quiet and and understand that that beat needs to be beautiful, and then to explode out on like something like Head Hard Hands and just be like, now we're having, clap together, let's do this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, is well rounded.
I appreciate that. I mean, that means so much to me and Ant. Like, we make an album. We don't make an out like, Atmosphere has an album they could make three a year,
Sure.
like without no exaggeration.
Yeah.
When me and Ant get together, it's like I just had some new phase in my life that I want to document.
Yep.
So when we put it's like once every 6 years or 10 years or something. So, for us, it's like we want to make a very complete statement. And yeah, that section in the middle that you mentioned, Kay, is like those are the songs all those songs we debated whether or not to leave every single one of those songs on the record. Like,
Right.
should we take this off? Because for some people, it'll slow down the album.
Mhm.
Because if you think about like the first songs, that first run of songs and the last run of songs, those are, in terms of like playing for a room full of people, those are the stronger ones. And the ones that you're mentioning, Kay, like those are headphone songs that for a person to listen to by themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And,
Um,
and those are songs to me, like they're not gonna catch you maybe the first time you go through it, but like once you have like a life experience that's similar to that, then maybe you come back to it whenever time brings you across it again, and then it resonates with you.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I'm glad we've been talking about doing this since this came out in February, and having the time with this album
Mhm.
to really understand all the different sections of it is really valuable to me. It's one of the best albums of the year.
Mhm.
Uh, and I appreciate it. What the last thing I wanted to do before we go to recommendation corner is the I always love hearing you talk about other MCs. You're just a great analyst of other rappers, but people are always asking you, Brother Ali, questions. And I just wanted to give you some quick hits on
Okay.
people because you have rapped with some of the best rappers ever,
Yeah.
right? Like I have a top 218, 220 MCs list that I keep adding to because it's fun to bust the top five way out, you know? Um, and so many of them are people that you've rapped with, interacted with. So when you say, I'm going to give you a name, you give me when people listen to this person, what should they listen for in terms of their superpower? Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the person that opened for you, Sean Price.
Man, Sean Price is Sean Price is like a more, like he's a Brownsville version of Doom. You know what I mean? Um, like he's extremely poetic,
Mhm.
he's extremely clever, he's extremely funny. Um, but and the combination of just how poetic he is,
Mhm.
how funny he is, how creative he is, how, but then he's also very like violent. You know what
Right,
I mean?
right. Yes,
And
yes.
it's real. It's like this is like both the most sensitive, artistic, funny, like he's an artist, but he also there's a scenario where he's gonna rob you.
Right, right, right.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
like smack you in the head with his gun if you don't hurry up and give him you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and all of that was really who he was as a person too, you know? Like he really always kind of had this like rough exterior, and you knew that that was very real.
Right,
Like
right.
you did not want him to be your enemy.
Sure.
But also he was a very sweet, very loving, hilarious person. Um, you know, and
It,
all of that comes through in the music, like,
when when he
very
opened
special.
for when he opened for you, he grabbed the mic and he said, "I could beat up everybody on this tour." And it was incredible. But one of my memories from the show is like looking around and going, do this crowd know how funny this guy is? They were just like
No,
really excited by the barbarian kind of, just the thrust of how muscular his performance is. And I was like, this shit is hilarious, guys. Like you're missing it. So yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, no, people didn't get it. There was not like what he was doing, there's not a genre for that. Like it's a
Right.
one person genre. You know what I mean? And no, people did not get it. It's like they didn't understand how funny it is, how, lyrically dope it was, how artistically, I mean, he was doing things with his patterns and the way he rhymed things and the way he said things. And like, he was just doing artistic things that nobody had ever done. And he created a world where like he's the only person in that world.
Right.
Very similar to Doom. And
That
I took
agreed.
both of them and I knew both of them and they very similar to Doom.
That's awesome. The so another one, one of my favorite rappers ever, I Self Divine.
Yeah, well, I mean, Iself is again, he's like one of the most unique human beings in the world. He kind of has his own language.
Mhm.
He's masterful when it comes to language. Um, and depending on the chamber you catch him in, sometimes he's just creating his own entire language. What's important to know about him is that he's the embodiment of of grassroots, organic, radical Black culture, organizing, religion, spirituality, family, along with the street element. You know what I mean? Like he is like the culmination, the embodiment of the Black experience from the time that he was produced, which is in the 70s in LA.
Mm.
Right.
And then he came to Minnesota, but I mean, he's LA and his mother is from that, like his
Mhm.
mother is really like that. Like his mother is like that. So, um, you know, uh, not that anybody is less legit or valid,
Sure,
but
sure.
like what you would, I've listened to Dead Prez and I've been around them.
Mhm.
I've listened to Public Enemy and I know Chuck D very well.
Mhm.
And I've been around all of them. Um, I've listened to X Clan. I've listened, all of that. I Self Define is that person. Like the
Mhm.
person that you think though, like I'm not saying any of them aren't. I'm saying I know all of them. I Self is more that person than or as much that real figure. You're talking about a real community organizer, a
Right.
real in the realest sense. Um, And there are some like that, like Jasiri X is the real thing. Bamboo in the Bay,
Oh, Bamboo is so good.
like yeah, Bamboo and
Oh,
Rocky Rivera. I mean, they really are that. You know what I mean? Like there are people
love
that
that.
are, Immortal Technique really does. He's not
Yeah,
like a full-time community organizer, but there is really that element to him.
sure.
Uh, you know, X Clan comes out of the Black Watch movement.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So there's the most overlap there is between like Brother Jay and I Self Divine. But I mean, for all things cultural, you have to you can only appreciate something as much as you're able to really grasp the context of it,
Right.
And so the more in touch with the context of something like I Self Divine somebody is, the more they appreciate it. The less connected they are, they might not appreciate it as much, but also just sonically, it's dope. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sonically, his voice just sounds great. His energy is great. He's an amazing performer. He looks cool. You know what I'm saying? There are certain people that I'm surrounded by so many people that like, why aren't they more famous? Why isn't this person? You know what I mean? And
Right.
I mean, he's
Right.
definitely one of those people.
One more. The on Ghosts, Quelle Chris. Talk to me about what we've talked about Chris a lot, just in terms of man, the skill set is pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, Chris is one of those guys that like, so he's so understated.
Mm,
He's not telegraphing his greatness. Like he's not performing it and projecting it. You know what I mean? Um, and I'm definitely guilty of overperforming in my recordings. And like there's songs of mine that I love the song. I'm very proud of the song I wrote. But when I listen, I'm like, oh, I overperformed in the booth. There's
mm,
a period
mm.
where I was definitely doing that. And it's one of the things about now, like, like, hey, like you said, hopefully we've reined in our ego to the point where I'm not performing this. It's just like in the same way. It's not as performative. But Quelle Chris is so understated with the genius things that he's doing that I think a lot of people miss it. Um, but and also there's something so like just homey about it. Like it sounds like he's in his pajamas.
That's
You
awesome.
know, it's just like, yeah, like he's like eating chips and saying this amazing rhyme. Like
Right.
there's probably crumbs
There's like
somewhere.
an unnatural ease to it, right? It's like where you're just like, man, this was just really easy to you to do this. Um, yeah, it falls out of
Yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean it's that thing where, you know, there will very likely be, in 10 years or something, there very likely will be a white person who understands what Chris did
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
does a white version of it that
Oh,
everybody that audience can understand and relate to.
mhm.
And then he'll get credit for,
For creating that lane. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, all these people that you're mentioning, it's like they're geniuses. Like they are
Yeah.
absolute geniuses, and nobody has ever done what they've done. Like
Mm,
no one has ever sounded like any of three of these people.
right.
And and everybody that really knows the culture knows and respects them. Um, but it just goes to show that like popularity has nothing to do with the virtue and the actual value of art.
No,
They are not
absolutely,
the same thing.
absolutely,
Sometimes they line up. They usually don't.
absolutely. And I think that's one of the things. Like the journey I've been on is trying to feed people things that they didn't. I remember, so there was a guy at work and he was a rhyme sayers person, but that was pretty much it, right? It was rhyme sayers, like very little radio stuff. And I remember making him listen to Freddie Gibbs. And he came back to me and was like, I like this, but I don't know if I'm comfortable that I like it. You know what I mean? It was like he had to give himself permission to it because he was so into that world that he hadn't peeked out of it, you know? So I was always trying to feed people something different, you know? Uh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, for years we had people that liked us for racist reasons, like whether
Right.
they understood that or not.
Right.
And that was weird. Like that was hella weird. That like there'd be people that's just like, man, I really love how authentic and real you are in your music. And that like I am authentic, I am real. So that compliment would sit well with me. And then it'd be like, yeah, I just hate that. Whoever the like famous popular black artists were of that day, because I hate Lil Wayne. And
Right.
it's like, oh, well, Lil Wayne's a genius. Like, what do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it just is like you talk like I would really ask people like what do you mean by that and why? What is it about Lil Wayne? Um, well, yeah, he doesn't say anything. Oh, well, what are the things that you've heard him say? You know what I mean? Like, what have you heard? It's just like
Mhm.
you just get down to the bottom of like, I either don't understand or some combination of not understanding and disliking black expression.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't like black people having this high opinion of themselves. Like he seems to think very highly of himself in something that I can't verify. You know,
Mm.
so it's
Right.
like somebody will like certain white listeners will feel very proud of themselves that they like certain black artists. You know what I mean? And it's not to discredit them, but like, oh, I love Lizzo because I feel this way. Because they get it. Like they understand it.
Right.
They can approve of it. It's like she's good in ways that I feel a sense of authority to be able to declare.
Yeah.
Whereas like I can't say why Lil Wayne is good. You know what
Right,
I
right,
mean?
right.
They can't. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah, yeah.
because I know people like Lil Wayne. I grew up around a bunch of people like Lil Wayne.
Right.
It's funny. I was just on tour with DJ Abilities, and he's like, "There's nothing better than a hood artist who's also a nerd and a weirdo.
Oh, it happens all the
Nothing
time.
better than a
So good.
hood weirdo."
It's so
And it's
good.
like, yes, it's like that's Vast Air,
Right.
that's Lil Wayne.
Yep.
That I mean, Vast Air and Lil Wayne are the same guy to me. Musab, I Self Divine, Yasin Bey, all the people that we love are like they're very culturally black and they're you know and they're also genius and they're also weird. Like they're just
Yeah.
they've given themselves full permission to be weird. And
Right.
Tyler the Creator is like that and you know and that's something very, very special.
I agree. And it can be hard to be weird and to give yourself permission to be weird because it can be embarrassing. It can be embarrassing to be out there doing something totally different and have a crowd of people looking at you confused. And to get through that is that that takes temerity, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's
And that's why to me, it is political. You know what I mean? And it is social and it is, so um yeah, I mean like, those same things that everybody from a Tyler the Creator to, you know, it all is tied in to me in my mind.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Kay, do you have any other thing?
No, no.
Good times. I'm ready to go to recommendation corner. So this is where we just kind of talk about what we've been listening to. Um, and so the first one I wanted to shout out. We just booked him to be on the show. Sudoku, SOO space DO space KOO. Been releasing a lot of music. It's very New York underground, dope references, great production. It's very, very just listenable, great stuff. The newest album is Meals on Wheels. It's dope. All the stuff is dope. Really making a name. Uh, and we love talking to people who are kind of in the midst of forming their style and getting it to where they want to be. It's beautiful. It's great energy. So shout out to Sudoku. Um, the other one I was listening to a bunch of the new Tune Yards album, Better Dreaming, just kind of a different thing. Um, it's this really cool intersection of like what you would think of as indie alternative and R&B, you know? Um, so that's really good. And the other one, because I wanted to mix in some soul while I was listening to all this Brother Ali, Reasons to Stay by Tanika Charles. I'm going back to that. I may have mentioned it. Uh, Beautiful soul record, warm, um, and um, every song means something. It is very, yeah, beautiful voice. Um, just yeah, it warmth. Me and Kay talk about how like the world of R&B is a pretty dark post weekend place
Mhm.
where there's a lot of like Emperor Palpatine energy over on that side of the game, and to have this kind of warm, happy, loving soul music about appropriate boundaries and shit like that. It's like, oh, this is great. This is what I like this, you know? Um, yeah. So that's what I've been rocking with. Brother Ali, what have you been listening to?
Man, I have to be real about the fact that like I've become so sensitive
Yeah.
over the years that like it's really hard for me to listen to new music because of the impact that it has on me. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I'm just taking my heart so seriously that like the diet of what I put into my heart, I've got to have hard boundaries, man.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll listen to some new rap music just to hear what people are doing. And I'll hear like, oh man, the level just keeps going up. I
Right.
listen to like, 38 Special or like all these people, and I'm like, man, these people are amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like, I I can't subject my heart to that. You know what I mean? I can't do it. Like with the topics and the language and all that stuff. So it's getting pretty limited in that sense, and I'm not recommending that or anything. But
Right.
um, so the newer stuff that I listen to is there's a woman named Raina Simone.
Oh wow.
Raina Simone is amazing. She makes her own beats. She can rhyme crazy, sing. Her stuff is like really, it's like really powerful, like pro-black music, but she's also just a great rapper. She looks cool. Everything she says is interesting, just super dope. Like, she just had her first show at SOBs. She's from New York.
Hmm.
Super dope. Eric Roberson, R&B singer, like he's been around a long time.
Yep.
I still love everything he does. Cleo Soul
Oh,
with
I
Purple
love Cleo.
Salt.
I love Cleo.
Yeah, yeah. Like I love her stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Um, I mean, this is a little bit of a flex, but I'll just say it. But Yasin Bey has a new album coming with Alchemist,
Yes, 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 yes.
and I have most of it on my phone.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Man, that's one of those things, man. There's never been anything that sounds like it.
That's awesome.
It's just like it's man, it's like Marvin Gaye singing Sufi spiritual music. It's just
Wow.
amazing, man. It's just incredible. Like,
It's yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear you. I mean, it's and the funny thing is, I don't even let myself think about the Most Def Alchemist thing because I'm very Badu focused.
okay,
And like Badu is just a big deal to me. And the
of
fact that
course.
she's coming out with a project, I'm super excited for that. So I sometimes I even forget that that's coming, even though obviously an incredible, important artist. I mean, my favorite is probably still the Ecstatic, uh,
Yeah, me too. I
which
mean,
a
I
lot
know
of
like Black
people,
on Both Sides is the bigger cultural moment, but
yeah.
Ecstatic is a masterpiece, man.
I got it. I got a chance to be on the Crate 808 podcast talking about Black on Both Sides. And I said, it's a great album, but it's a mirage. It's the album that you wanted, but he didn't. Ecstatic is the album he wanted. Like that's his mind is different, and it wasn't linear enough to keep giving you Miss Fat Booty and like it was that he gave you that album for you, but like I don't think that's his album for him. I think if you talk to him, he'd probably, you know, yeah, he'd probably give you a different one. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
interesting.
But that's also Yasin post Doom. So Doom gave him permission to be that way.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought
Doom
about.
gave him permission to be like that. So the way I look at Yasin, he looks at Doom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
do Doom. And you know what I mean? And I actually met Yasin through Doom. And
Wow.
I was there the day that they met, and it was a weird interaction between the three of us.
Sure.
But like we know the exact date. And so me and Yasin are very close. And we know the day that we met. And there's actually footage from that day.
That's
Because it was at a show. It was at a show at SOBs. I mean at BB King's.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it has Yassine has to be on that list of like people who when they came out, I thought you thought they could do anything, you know. Like there was just limitless potential. This person's gonna take over the world. Like there was just no, yeah, there was nothing I felt like he couldn't do. And I feel like that about when I heard Blue for the first time. There's just different people I feel that way about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kay, what have you been listening to?
Oh no, nothing new this week. So
No, been in the airport listening to the people announce the flights. Listening to the
um,
person go too close to the microphone.
yeah.
Um,
So I'll just, brother Ali, do you have any like personal favorite albums that you find yourself going back to?
I like this question.
Um, yeah. I mean, so I listened to Love Supreme by John Coltrane. Like there's like I'll go through long periods where I listen to it every day. Um, like that
What
one,
about that resonate? Like, what is it that resonates with you at this time?
um, man, that album has been like it's been like that for like the last like 7 years probably.
Mm.
Um,
I
yeah,
love it.
it's just so perfect and it just speaks to me on it's like, it's such spiritual music. It's so free, it's like sad and beautiful and
Yep.
um yeah, so like yeah, I come back to that one a lot. Um, I find myself like going back to older hip hop music a lot.
Yep.
There's a Boogie Down Productions live album, BDP Live Hardcore Worldwide. There's 3 shows on there. The first one, so like the first third of that album is the first ever like live hip hop album. I listen to that all the time. Like
Yep.
it's just that's the best live performing in hip hop ever, in my opinion. But I still go back to Boogie Down Productions a lot. I still go back to Public Enemy. I still go back to Tribe Called Quest. I
Yeah,
still
dude.
go back to, Nas, Jay-Z,
It's
Yasin.
yep. Yep.
Um,
It's oh by the way, Kay, there's a book that just came out called Independent as Fuck, and it's by Ben Pedroche,
Mhm.
who does the Grown Up Rap podcast, and it's all about independent hip hop from like 99 to or sorry 95 to '05, the 10-year
hmm,
period. And yeah, Alaska Adams was posting pictures like Adams family breakdown is in the book and all that. So it'll be interesting as I get through it to see, you know, the you're in there and see what's going on. But it's incredibly thorough in terms of like, all right, this is the flavor unit, and this is the people that came out of the flavor unit, and here's their albums, and they were out during this period, and it's incredibly comprehensive. So that's a lot of work. So shout out to Pedroche for doing that.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing that.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate you doing this. Just to set the stage. My You were a big part of me and my wife getting together.
Hmm.
We went to 3 shows together to see you over the course of that kind of, the honeymoon period of a relationship where you're not even fighting. It doesn't even make sense. You're happier than you ever been. You earmarked that period. Uh, we still listen to you all the time. You're probably her favorite rapper, I would think. Uh, so, yeah, you're just a big part of what has bound that relationship. Um, and we're still Yeah, we were married in 2010. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Man, that's a gift to us all, man. That's a major gift to me. Like it can be really a lot of sacrifice. It can be a lot of like emotional highs and lows, financial highs and lows, like doing what we do in our lane. Like sometimes you're just killing it, and other times you just can't catch a break. And but the thing that never leaves me is the connection with people and the connection that people have with each other through the music, and you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yep.
Like that's the part that's undeniable. Like that part is only good, only always good.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I just the other thing I wanted to tell people is if you enjoy Satisfied Soul, if you enjoy Brother Ali, listen to Brother Ali on the Super Duty Tough Work podcast with Blueprint. And Illogic, and that interview is fabulous, and there's covers so much ground. Um, Genius on genius conversation. Um, yeah. So, thank you, and thank you everybody who continues to support. Kay, have I got a chance to tell you that Brian Ennals and Infinity Knives is at number 13 all time now?
Wow.
it's a great rap album, A City Drowned in God's Black Tears, and it's very like anti-Israel and goes in on that situation. And they were very worried about paying the same kind of uh, tax that you did, and to see them thrive and succeed is incredible. So, yeah, shout out to love to them. Um, yeah, appreciate people. Stay safe.
What will tomorrow